Welcome to our Prepare Your Horse for the Flying Changes in 5 Days challenge. So, yet again, if you haven't figured out by now, I'm Shanna Ritter.
I'm Thomas Ritter.
And today we're going to talk about how to devise a training plan based on your horse's skills and needs and your skills and needs, which hopefully you have a better idea of where things stand and what you need to work on in order to be able to do the flying changes. Hopefully based on the exercise, the riding exercise, and also the Feldenkrais lesson, you have a better idea of kind of what you need to focus on and work on. And so we wanted to talk about how you can devise a training plan based on what you now know.
Yeah, so in order to come up with a training plan, you have to begin by assessing where you are in the training, where the horse is in his training. And I would start out by checking in how far the horse meets the prerequisites. So can he shift the weight from one side to the other? Can he change the bend? Can he move his pelvis? Of course, also practice simple changes and double check if they're clean. If you find issues with the shifting of the weight or the changing of the bend or the mobility of the hips, then select exercises that improve those skills. Do them at the walk, do them at the trot, and when the horse meets these prerequisites, then you can start working on the flying changes proper, or you work towards the flying changes. And the way we do it is that we pick a certain exercise that makes the flying change attractive or inviting for the horse, and we ride this exercise at the walk until it flows really easily. Then we ride it at the trot until it becomes easy and smooth. And then we ride it again at the trot with a transition into the canter in the location where the flying change will take place later on. And only when all these preliminary stages or preparatory stages of the exercise are easy and smooth and effortless, then we try the whole thing in the canter with a flying change. And if the flying change fails, then you have to look at exactly at which point of the exercise do things go wrong. What is it that the horse finds difficult? Is it the weight shift? Is it a change of bend? Is it the mobility of the hips or the independent movement of hips and shoulders? And once you've identified what's preventing the horse from doing the flying change, you work on those skills again at the walk and the trot, etc. And once it feels like you've made progress in those areas, then you can go back to the canter and the flying change. So do not drill the flying change. Do not continue to practice bad flying changes, because it just makes things worse. Always evaluate, troubleshoot, fix the root cause of the problem, and then go back to the canter itself.
Yeah, training strategy. Traditionally, flying changes are often not really prepared or taught well at all. Usually the teacher tells a student just to basically write it and without really telling them how, or how to prepare. But there is a very logical procedure you can follow that builds the skills step by step in the horse and the rider, and that's what we do in our flying changes course. We explain that in great detail with lots of exercises that help. But the central point, in a way, is that the flying change is a complex movement that consists of three key components. One is shifting the weight, the other one is changing the bend, and then the third one is moving the croup independently of the shoulders. And later, when the horses are really proficient at flying changes, they almost happen at the same time. And that's the challenge within one suspension phase, within one canter stride. You have to do all these things, right? But you can't necessarily begin flying changes that way, but you have to explain these individual components to the horse separately. And you can do that at the halt and at the walk and at the trot and so on. And also as a rider, you can learn to do these things in slow motion. If you've never done a flying change, and if you don't have a schoolmaster who can teach you flying changes, then you can practice these components on your horse separately and in slow motion until you get a good feel in your body of what that feels like, shifting the weight and changing the bend and moving the croup. And you can do them separately at first, and you can do them in combination. Like shifting the weight and changing the bend often goes together really well. Like shifting the weight facilitates changing the bend. That's why we do it. And moving the croup sideways can, or moving the whole horse sideways can help in shifting the weight, right? So you can use a stepping movement in order to create a weight shift that you need in order to change the bend, right? And so that's why things like enlarging or leg yielding a little bit parallel to the long side can be useful as tools to teach the horse to shift the weight to one side of the body so he can bend in the opposite direction. Yeah, and then moving the croup independently without the shoulders doing some other unwanted lateral movements is the last piece of the puzzle that leads to the clean lead change. So that's something you can train separately, and these elements are contained in the exercise that we chose. Let me just really quickly see, there's chat. Good. Just a little suspicious sometimes, because in the past it happened that when we shared the keynote, the screen was black for the people watching, so that's why I'm a little paranoid when I see comments. I would just look real quickly. And yeah, Ricky says, so great to have it broken down to pieces, very helpful to practice each component. Melissa says, this challenge has taught me to do these things separately myself, my own body, so now I understand how I can help her to do them separately. So cool. Yeah. Oh, good. Perfect. So you can all see. Yeah. So we can analyze each movement, each exercise in terms of the gymnastic components. Like here, if you look at our exercise from the challenge, you have a weight shift that's contained in the sidestepping. When you move the croup here to the inside, then the weight goes to the right hind leg, or should go to the right hind leg if you're on the right rein. Moving the croup back out shifts the weight into the left hind leg. Turning the shoulder away from the wall into the vaulter shifts the weight into the right hind. So there is this rocking motion going on, right? Croup in and croup back out. So you're rocking the weight from one hind leg to the other, which always has a nice suppling and straightening effect. And it teaches the horse that there are two legs on the right side of the body, two legs on the left side of the body, and they're all perfectly capable of supporting the body mass, which is not self-evident to a lot of horses. They don't know that they have two legs on each side or one leg at each corner of the support base, right? So they have to sometimes learn that okay, we can rely on these legs, I can rely on these legs, and I'm not going to fall down if I do that. Yeah, then you have the change of bend contained in the transition between single track and counter shoulder. Yeah. So, and that's why when you're using the exercise to prepare for flying changes, it's useful to ride counter shoulder in rather than haunches in, because if you're riding a haunches in, then the bend stays the same. Then you only practice weight shift and moving the hips and the shoulders separately, but you're not practicing the change of the bend. So that there can be, it can be useful for other purposes, but if you're interested specifically in practicing or preparing flying changes, then I would incorporate the change of the bend in the exercise. Yeah, the suppling of the croup in, croup out movement makes the hip supple, and it shows you whether the front legs and hind legs are independent of each other or whether they're glued together, so that if you move one end, the other end automatically moves either in the same direction or in the opposite direction. Also, basically turning the shoulders into the voltage shows you whether you can move the shoulders sideways without the hind legs drifting. Because if you move the shoulder onto the volte and the haunches swing out, then hips and shoulders are not separately movable. Or if you turn onto the volte and the haunches come in, the horse does sort of an unwanted travers, haunches in position, then the hips and shoulders are not independent of each other. So it's a great diagnostic tool, but you can also use it to improve whatever deficits come up. So you have all three elements: weight shift, change of bend, and the independent mobility of the hips and the shoulders contained in one single exercise. Right? This is why this is such a useful or such a powerful exercise. Yeah, so use this exercise as a diagnostic tool or something like it. Yeah. Any exercise that contains these three elements could become your diagnostic tool. And with a lot of horses, you may find that some parts of the exercise go well, other parts don't go well. Now you can, when you identify that one of these three elements is hard, maybe think of additional exercises that target that particular skill or that particular area of the body. And you can use exercises at the halt or at the walk or at the trot that shift the weight or that change the bend or that move the hips or that move the shoulders. It's usually good to start slow. So horse and rider both have time to really think about what needs to happen. Okay, which leg is next? Where does it need to go? Where do I have to support myself so I don't fall over? There's all the questions that run through the horse's mind, if they're not that educated yet, so to speak. And practice it slowly and then gradually speed it up. Right? Some things you want to do at the halt, maybe. And then when you feel like, okay, the horse can, is getting the idea at the halt, we'll do them at the walk. And once the walk feels easy, do them at the trot. So you go from slow to quick and from simple to complicated. Weight shifts can be practiced, for example, by riding figure eights, serpentines, zigzags, like in away from the wall, back out to the wall, whether it's leg yield in out or half pass in, half pass out, or combinations. It doesn't matter, but there are weight shifts involved. And essentially any exercise or any pattern where you're changing direction requires a weight shift in order to make one movement, one line flow smoothly into the next one. Then lateral suppleness of the horse's spine can be improved not just by changing direction, because anytime you shift the weight from one side to the other, it facilitates the change of bend. So you can practice changing the bend by changing direction, but you can also change the bend without changing direction, just riding the line you're riding the movement you're riding, and see if you could change the bend without losing the rhythm or the tempo, without losing the roundness and the softness of the horse and so on. Just, ride a circle, ride whole spool, and see if you can bend the horse a little to the outside. And sometimes that's not even possible with some horses. Especially young horses often really don't see the point of bending towards the outside. They have a really hard time with that, especially if they like to lean against the wall a little with the outside shoulder, then they won't bend to the outside. And then you have to shift the weight a little to the inside and see if you can now bend a little bit to the outside and so on. So that's worth practicing, right? And then with the more advanced horses, ride a shoulder in and check if you can change the bend from shoulder into renvers. Or ride a haunches in and see if you can change the bend to counter shoulder and basically back and forth between the two. Shoulder in renvers, haunches in counter shoulder in, haunches in counter shoulder in, back and forth. You can also ride a half pass and then change the bend to a leg yield and from leg yield back into half pass. That improves the half pass usually. So that can be a really good test for the mobility of the spine, but it also improves the mobility of the spine, right? All these exercises have a certain diagnostic quality and a certain therapeutic quality. Yeah, and then you can improve or test the lateral suppleness of the horse's hips by asking the haunches to move left or right. So you can do this with turns on the forehand in motion. You could stop somewhere, move the croup in, move the croup out, and go forward a little bit. And yeah, that's something that's sometimes nice in the beginning to warm up. Test the mobility of the hips. Walk, halt, croup 90 degrees to the inside and back out, and walk on and stop somewhere else and repeat, right? And that tells you very quickly how supple the hips are going to the right, how supple they are going to the left. Yeah? And there's also a weight shift involved, and there is a change of bend involved if you do this as a turn on the forehand in motion. But the focus is on moving the pelvis back and forth. And you could do this exercise, go old school or big circle, and ask the haunches to yield to the inside and back out, right? Whether you're bending, to the outside, to the inside, doesn't matter. Just move the croup in, move the croup out, and see if the horse can do it or not. And by practicing it, the horse gets better at it. And then when the horses are a little bit more advanced, you can go from shoulder in to haunches in and back, or counter shoulder into renvers and back. But the bend stays the same, but you're rotating the horse. Shoulders in, haunches out, and back, vice versa. So that's a great diagnostic exercise to see if the horse is ready for flying changes. But it's a therapeutic tool too that improves the lateral suppleness of the hips and shoulders. So for each body part, there are certain exercises that address that body part or that move that body part. Yeah, and by moving the body part, you test its mobility and you improve its mobility. Yeah, so once you feel like, okay, we can do this, right? We can shift the weight, we can change the bend, we can move the hips, then you could choose an arena pattern that allows you to string these three things together in the canter, because then you could, that could lead to a flying change. And you can do this on straight lines, you can do this on curved lines, you can use long lines, long distances to accommodate a big canter stride. You can do this on short lines. If the horse tends to fall apart and run away, then it's often better to make the distances a little shorter. You could change from counter canter to true lead. You could change from the true lead canter to the counter canter. Doesn't matter in a way. Every horse is different. A lot of horses have a particular line or particular exercise that is especially logical to them, where, as you're riding it, the horses are thinking along with you. And then they at some point, they have this realization, it would actually be better if I were cantering on the other side, on the other lead. And then they either do it just by themselves, or you can prompt them really easily. And then they're like, oh, thank God for allowing me to canter on the other lead. Thank you for allowing me to do a flight change, right?
Which is brilliant, because they love it. They like it because they feel like it was their idea. And so you're incorporating, you're collaborating with the horse this way.
Yeah, exactly. You lead the horse in a way on a little staircase of small learning steps, right? The horse walks up that ladder, one step leads logically to the next in a way. And at the end, there is the conclusion they draw. And it becomes the horse's idea. It makes sense to him. He feels like this makes life easier, and they stay calm. Yeah. Whereas the way that a lot of people, the way a lot of people do it, like gallop down the diagonal and then throw the horse off balance at the end by jabbing him with a spur or yanking on the rein, that just panics the horse, right? Yeah. Because it makes no sense, and they didn't see it coming. They're not prepared. They have no idea what the rider wants, so they get scared. And then it can happen that you want to canter down the diagonal and your horse starts bolting because he is already afraid of what's going to happen at the end of the diagonal. We had one in training like that one time. It was a big shock for me at that time. It's like, I didn't see that coming, but then it made perfect sense, when you think about how this sort of comes to pass. But if you lead the horse very systematically on this little journey, of small learning steps, then flying changes are very unexciting in a good way, right? Then it's all for the horse, something he can process as you go along. He understands each step before you take the next one.
Yeah, then they develop a good association with it, which really stands you well for later when you want to train the tempo changes and so on. I need to string changes together. If the horse has a good association with them, it's much easier to string them together.
Yeah. So in a way, you can say flying changes are just the result of the training that develops the horse's understanding, the horse's coordination, body awareness, balance, and the ability to respond quickly to the aids. And that's also why bad flying changes don't get better by practicing them more, but by analyzing what's preventing the horse from doing it, what is the horse not understanding, and then working on that missing piece in the walk, in the trot, at the halt, and then putting it back together to test, is my preparation sufficient now? Does the horse now understand all the pieces of the puzzle? And then you actually don't need to write a lot of flying changes when you're practicing or training flying changes. In the early stages, most of the work is really done at the walk and the trot, and then you put it together and then you test it. And then, if it change is not clean, you may have to go back to the walk and the trot and fill in gaps and, explain things. And then you test them again in the canter, with a flying change. Yeah, and to teach the horse the flying changes on the saddle, you can either make up your own exercise that contain these elements of weight shifting, changing the bend, moving the hips, or you can use our exercises that we teach in the flying changes course. We've come up with 12 very different paths that involve very different patterns, different lines, and they've all been successful with a fairly large number of horses. They're the centerpiece, right? And usually each horse gravitates towards one of them and finds one of them completely logical, whereas others may not.
Or a couple.
Yeah. With a little luck, you have 2 or 3 where the horse gets it right away. Sometimes horses find flying changes very challenging, and they don't have a single exercise that really leads to that epiphany, but there's a cumulative effect. If you practice all these in the walk and in the trot and so on.
And all the elemental skills that lead up to it, which are vital for training the changes. You need to work on all of these skills and really polish them.
Yeah. Exactly. And then as a cumulative effect, at some point the horse will get it, and then the penny drops and they do it. So some horses find flying changes really easy, others find them really difficult. Depends a little bit also on how good the basic canter is that the horse comes with. But most horses can learn the flying change.
And the ones that are just really absolutely, they have no talent for the flying change because they have a very poor canter, like maybe a gaited horse that really even struggles with a basic canter. These exercises will still make that horse more supple, straighter, better balanced, happier. The contact will improve, the throughness will improve. All of these things will improve too. So you'll still end up with a better horse at the end.
Yeah, that's a funny thing.
Sounder.
Exactly. Even if you don't get the flying change, or if you don't get it very quickly, you will feel how your horse is improving, getting softer, rounder, straighter, more balanced, more supple, more aware, more responsive. So it's fascinating to see.
Worth doing, even if it's not just for the flying changes. This process, it works for all horses to improve them.
Yeah. So in our course, we teach you the 12 paths to the flying changes that we've used with our horses, but we also teach you the theory behind the flying change and preparatory exercises, and we teach you also how to troubleshoot, what to do when the flying changes are not clean, when something goes wrong with them. There's always things you can do to retrain poor flying changes. If you get a horse in training that does flying changes badly, or as you're teaching the horse flying changes, certain mistakes happen, we can show you how to fix them, how to make the changes clean.
Yeah, and so, we teach you all the theory, but it's not just the theory. We also guide you through the process with feedback and support, and really explain and help you troubleshoot every step of the way. If you can troubleshoot when you're working on the core basics that lead up to the flying change, then you're going to find it much easier to troubleshoot later when you get to the actual flying change. Or if you're dealing with a horse that has unclean changes or difficulty in the changes, going back and working on these basics and that we cover in the course, and then troubleshooting with those will help you later when you're coming back to the change. Yeah. So it's a 26-week course, and we address both the horse and the rider, just like we did in the challenge. We have Feldenkrais lessons for the rider. We also have other exercises, sort of, they're not physical exercises, but exercises that help you develop your understanding, like, analyzing the footfall of your horses. We do this in our Cantor course as well, but it's vital for the flying changes. You really need to understand the timing of the footfall so that you can get the timing of your aids down. So we cover this in the course.
So there'll be biomechanics explanations, riding exercises, timing of the aids, understanding the method, the strategy. There's a lot of strategy involved in teaching flying changes so that the horse stays calm and understands what's happening and doesn't get panicky or doesn't get overwhelmed. Lateral movements play a role in flying changes, because you need that suppleness of the hips. That's why horses basically have to be able to do lateral movements in the trot.
They don't have to be perfect yet, but they need to be able to do them. They need to be ready to do them. A 4-year-old just started under saddle is not ready.
And then we use special movements. We use the full pass and the plie and the pirouette renversée sometimes for certain things, to supple the horse or to teach the horse certain movements. They can be useful for the flying changes as well. Troubleshooting, of course, I already mentioned, if the horse is late behind, or if he does a trot stride, or if he runs away after the flying change, or whatever happens.
There's many mistakes that can happen.
Exactly. Many things can go wrong.
We address all of these.
And we explain where they come from and what you can do to fix it. Use of the seat and aids, of course. We go through that, how you ask for the flying change, what moment in the footfall, and the Feldenkrais lessons. Because it's a complex movement for the rider as well as for the horse. And if the rider can't change their seat smoothly and, like a Tai Chi movement, then the flying change of the horse won't be very good. Or it won't happen at all.
Right. If you're struggling with your coordination, how can you expect the horse to be coordinated? So the Feldenkrais lessons help improve your body awareness, your body control, for lack of a better word. It's really about ease of use rather than control. That things are more immediately available. Movement patterns are more immediately available to you. That's where lack of coordination really comes from, that these things are just not immediately available to you. So the more you can make all of these movement patterns immediately available, they're right there for you. And the coordination comes in flying change as a result. So the course runs January 10th, which, is Monday, this coming Monday, through June 11th. That's 22 weeks. There's also an additional 4 weeks of a simple changes workshop that is included. You can do it concurrently, you can do it before, you can do it after. It's a bonus that you get as part of the flying changes course, the simple changes workshop. So it comes to 26 weeks, but we take 22 weeks from January 10th to go through the process. We'll talk a little bit about these things. There's 2 bonus modules, one on tempo changes and one on flying changes at the long rein, in case you like to long rein. That could be a tricky thing to learn how to do or to train the horse. So we talk about that in our bonus modules.
And tempo change. I mean, the main goal of the course is to teach a horse and a rider flying changes even if they've never done them. So basically, the early part of the flying changes training is like the main goal. But then, of course, once the horse can do one flying change in each direction reliably, you want to progress and start to string them together and do several flying changes in a row.
So we give you some strategies.
Exactly.
To do
We'll
that.
teach you how you can develop tempo changes with your horse. And then, flying changes, the long rein, fun to do for those of you who long rein. We explain how to teach flying changes. Actually not that hard. Once the horse canters on the long rein, flying changes are actually not that big of a deal, I find.
Yeah, in fact, they're probably easier to teach at the long rein than under saddle with a lot of horses, because you don't have the confusion maybe of the rider's seat.
And I had a couple of horses, Lipizzans, where I did the flying changes on the long rein first. They learned them on the long rein, and then under saddle they were easy afterwards. So,
so it's a useful tool.
Yeah.
And so, like I mentioned, the Simple Changes workshop, if you're still wanting to work on your simple changes, this is a bonus that is included in the course. We ran it live in December. So the live component of the course is already over, but you get that course and you get to watch the recordings of the hot seats that took place during that. So you can watch it's like rider demo videos. You can watch them and learn from those. And those skills will help you in the flying changes course. So even if you go, we can do our simple changes, it's worth looking into. It's going to help. So there's videos, there's PDFs. Excuse me. We have a private Facebook group, just like we had for the challenge, with a really nice atmosphere. And in addition to the two of us and Catherine, there are some other assistant instructors, and I actually don't have Charlotte listed down here yet.
Here it is.
Oh, I do. I missed her. Yes. So.
Charlotte is a Feldenkrais practitioner, but she's also a writing teacher. So she can answer writing questions, and she can answer Feldenkrais questions.
Brilliant team. I love our team so much. They give beautiful advice that really works very well with everything we teach and say about our students. So, of course. And you can post your video of yourself writing in the Facebook group for tips and feedback, and also ask your questions in the Q&As. There are Q&As held every 2 weeks throughout the entire course. So it's not like you have to attend every day a Q&A. That would get really
intense.
And it would obstruct the rest of your life from happening, right? But we have a approximately 2-hour Q&A every 2 weeks. And you can get all your questions asked then. And in the meantime, you can ask your questions in the Facebook group. We're always there on standby, essentially. We don't answer within a minute, but pretty quickly, somebody's going to answer, one of the assistants or us, and we'll all get to it at some point very shortly. Let's see. We've kind of gone through some of this.
Yeah, we've gone through some of it, the videos are usually also available as MP3s, right? So you can listen to them, the Q&As.
You can download them as audio files if you prefer to listen to things that way. We do of some of the exercises, not all, but some of them we have rider demo videos. This is where riders have demonstrated, these for students of ours in the courses, previous courses, demonstrated some of the exercises. They didn't record all of them, but they have a lot of them there, and you'll be able to learn from other people posting their videos in the group, and we'll get feedback on those. And as a Flying Changes course alumni, you'll receive the opportunity to join in this course again. You always get lifetime access to the course, but you can then, if we do any changes to the course, you'll get at a highly discounted rate that course, and any opportunity to participate in the Q&As and everything that happens. So you can take the course over and over and over if you want to for very little additional. So everything that they will learn.
So basically the content, we talk about when it makes sense to start flying changes, talk about the footfalls of the canter, timing of the aids in the canter, how to feel the footfalls. How can you tell, which leg is where? Then prerequisites for the rider and for the horse to be able to do flying changes. That's some of it we covered in the challenge. We'll go into more detail in the course. Then strategies, the psychology behind the training of the flying changes. Rider exercises, that's the Feldenkrais stuff. How to prepare the horse for the flying changes so you can set him up for success. We talk about preliminary exercises that help the horse to develop those gymnastic skills that he needs to be able to do the flying change.
The whole first half of the course is really almost skills, or almost, it's like 10.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time laying the foundation, because the better the foundation is, the smoother the training will progress later on. And seat aids in the flying change, seat mistakes, because there are those too, right? Sometimes riders make certain mistakes in their seat and aids. And then troubleshooting the flying changes if the horse makes mistakes. Right?
Like we listed all of the common mistakes, or common and some less than common. And when the horse is late behind, late in front, not through behind, crooked, downhill, like the horse is really on the forehand. The horse runs away after the flying change. A trot step. This is one that you see sometimes where the horse does the change, but there's always a little trot step in between. Inverting, sucking back, changing 1 or 2 strides after the aid, so not responsive on time. And getting tense. This is a big one that happens, getting anxious and tense. Anticipating the flying change, that can be troubling to deal with. And no change at all. And the climbing change, that's where the horse really goes up too much. The opposite of the horse that crashes on the forehand in the change. The horse goes up too much and kind of gets stuck in the canter.
Yeah, but there's no ground cover, and usually then they're tight in the back and they over elevate and they come above the bit
tight
when
they tight in the back, tight everywhere.
When they lift the forehand too high.
Yeah, which is tension, right?
Also, if the forehand lifts too high, then you have both front legs in the air, both hind legs on the ground, and then they change in front first. And only when the hind legs lift, they can change behind. So it looks like they're laid behind, but it's really a slightly different issue. Right? They're just lifting the forehand so high off the ground that they can't change simultaneously.
So yeah, we address all of those things. We have a bunch of bonuses. See, this is what's inside of the package. We have, we have some master classes. We have master class and a module on flying changes at the long ring. We have a master class and a module on tempo changes. So we have both of those. And the simple changes workshop is a nice bonus. The Q&A. So there are 10 live Q&A sessions throughout the course, 2 hours each. And you get access to all of the previous Q&A archives. If you're somebody that really loves to listen to Q&As while you're driving or doing other things, you have a huge library to pull from. And the questions in the Q&As are not only about the flying changes, they're going to be about other things too. So it will really round your learning. Let's see here. We also have a bundle of recordings we have done over the last 5 or 6 years on a variety of topics around the canter and the flying changes. And so we bundled all of that together, and we're giving that to you too. The Feldenkrais lessons. Oh, and then 2 additional exercises for canter preparation, because we found that those would be really, really useful for the course participants to have. Then we have some additional bonuses. So there's going to be an exercises ebook that will be released in the spring, and this will contain all of the exercises in the course. This ebook you can download to your phone. You can have them all in one spot, so you don't have to go rifling through a whole bunch of PDFs on your phone. You can just download the ebook to your phone. You're at the barn riding. You want, what was that exercise? What was that third path? To the flying changes. What was it exactly? You can go look it up really fast, and it'll have the instructions in there as well as a graphic illustration. We have a master class on stirrup stepping. Stirrup stepping is super useful. If you don't know what it is yet, you'll be intrigued. And if you already do know what it is, you'll appreciate having this masterclass where we talk about how it's done, why, what, and how to do it. And we give you some basic stepping patterns to try. And this is a way to use subtle shifts of body weight, your body weight, to influence the horse. A bonus masterclass on the full pass. This is an exercise we use in many of our courses, and it's a component in this course where you move the horse directly sideways. So we did a whole masterclass on understanding how to do this movement. And it's a great tool for training the horse. And then the whole Cantor mini course is included because the Cantor is super useful for helping to develop the flying changes. And we always, in our training, we always develop the Cantor and the flying changes simultaneously. So we want to give you this too, so you have that to work on. Another bundle of other live trainings that we've done on the Cantor Special Arena GPS ebook. This is another ebook of Cantor exercises just to help you develop the cantors, to help support your work further. The Rider Development Series from 2021. This is a series of recordings that we did with Catherine McCrum. If you enjoyed the conversations we had with her, we go deeper in these sessions. They're really interesting, and I think you'll really enjoy them. And we have a bundle called the Virtual Élève. I have a hard time saying that. An élève is basically like
it's the apprentice at the Spanish writing school. We call élève. It's a French word, right? For student. But,
yeah, and so what this is, we've done, it's kind of like hot seat videos where we've done commentary, watching videos, and we do commentary over the videos. And we're over time adding to this bundle. So every time we add more to it, you'll get those. And we have in the Spanish writing school in there, we have Nuno Oliveira, we have some competition riders from the last Olympics. We have, what else do we have? I don't know, a variety of things. I think our Golga from the Portuguese school, if it's not added, it will be added shortly to that. You know, all of our commentaries, when we do a commentary on a performance or something like that, they get added into that. And it's great for learning. We talk about the seat of the riders and the mechanics of the horse, what we see going on. It helps you improve your understanding. And we have a half halt masterclass because everyone always asks, how do I give a half halt? And even advanced riders sometimes ask us, explain to me what you mean by half halt, because different people explain it differently. So we break it down in this masterclass. It was taught live in May 2019. You get the recording to that. So let's see. Yeah, so all of that, we're going to give you the link. We start the course. Go ahead and stop the share and we can answer questions. We will drop the link into here, and then I'll post it in the Facebook group too and send it out as an email. So the course actually starts on Monday with our orientation week. Orientation week is where we introduce people that are new to our courses to the platform and the way we do things. You get into the Facebook group, you can introduce yourself. We have a workbook, so you have time to download the workbook. We'll do a welcome party that week where we welcome everybody and explain kind of how the course is going to work and answer any questions, then just celebrate this journey that we're all going on together. And what else in the orientation week? It's a chance for you to get, there's in the course platform, there are many questions on how to set yourself up for success. So, for example, one of the things that we have are accountability pods. And that wasn't even listed on the enrollment page, but we have accountability pods where you can sign up for a pod assignment if you want to. It's not mandatory to do so, but we can assign you to a pod, and these will be your buddies through the course. You can get together if you want to, lean on each other, help each other. The pods have been amazing. That's your chance. In the orientation week, you can sign up for your pod. There's a variety of other things to do in orientation week. And then the course starts proper on Monday, January 17th. So we keep enrollment open until then. So you have all of orientation week to get enrolled, but if you don't want to miss anything, I encourage you to enroll before that begins. In the first week, we talk about the foundation of the Cantor. So we talk about the footfalls, we talk about the mechanics of the flying change and what the core elements are. Sort of what we did in the challenge, but we go in a little bit more detail, perhaps. And we also, you get started with an exercise on identifying your horse's canter footfall sequence, like we did in the Cantor course. If you took the Cantor course or are taking it right now, then that'll be familiar to you. And there's a Feldenkrais lesson on finding the vertical pelvis. So exploring tipping the pelvis forward and back. It's a really good lesson. We have 5 horse exercises, which primarily are working on shifting the bend and the weight. So we're really diving right in that first week and really getting into the meat of some of the really, really important work. Many of you in the challenge had a hard time changing the horse's bend. And so we work on those 2 elements. We don't finish it that week, but in that first week, we're diving right into those 2. It's really going to be a blast. Yeah. So if you would like to join us for the 2022 Training the Flying Changes course, we would love to have you. Of course, we don't expect your participation in the course as a participant in the challenge. It's not obligatory, but if you want to go in deeper, if you want our continued support and guidance and feedback and to learn our process, we invite you.
Alexandra.
Let's answer questions.
Yeah, Alexandra and Carolina are asking how many lectures are included during the Flying Changes course.
Lectures.
I mean, we have lots of theory
recordings.
recordings.
I can't even count. Every week there's theory lessons.
Yeah, but we have a Q&A live session every 2 weeks. So you can ask questions.
And we have break weeks too. So the course content is delivered. There's a new module delivered every week or 2 weeks. I have to go look. And actually the list is on the enrollment page. It shows the release of everything. And we have break weeks. So we call them implementation weeks. So they're weeks where you can catch up, you can review, because life happens. Sometimes you have a wedding you have to go to. You have to go fly across the country and go attend a wedding, and you can't ride your exercises. So you have chances to catch up built into the course. So we don't want you to give up if you get left behind. We're giving you places to catch up. But we're also talking about incorporating in a longer break, in April, in which case we will restructure the course a little bit and let you know when that break is, and that'll push the end date of the course further back, which gives you another Q&A to attend. So there may possibly be a shift in the schedule to extend it just a little bit longer.
So if you wanted to know all Q&A from all classes or all Flying Changes previous classes, the access to the Q&As that further Flying Changes.
For the upcoming Q&As?
I think it's the archives.
The archives. We had, the first time we ran the Flying Changes course, the Q&As were only for the Flying Changes course and no other course. And so those questions in those Q&As are only about Flying Changes for the most part. I mean, we invited people to ask questions about other things. And then last year when we ran the course, the Q&As were for all of our courses. So that includes questions about long reining and double lunging and working on the PF and, walk to trot transitions or whatever comes up for people. Many things come up, but it's all related. We have these topical courses, like flying changes is one of our topical courses. But in a way, it's hard to extract the flying changes from the rest of the training because it's all interrelated, it's all connected. And I feel like it would be good for you to be able to take part in the Q&As. And you can ask in the Q&As, you can ask questions about every other problem you're having. You don't have to only ask about your flying changes issues. You can ask about, oh, my horse is stiff in the right pole, and what do I do about this? And, and every time I do this, the horse does that, or he shies in the corner. You can ask any question in the Q&As. All questions are allowed.
I wanted to know if you have plans to start other courses during this period, like top line, or will those start after this concludes?
Some courses will begin while we're running the flight changes course, yes, but we had a schedule worked out and now I'm changing it because he's getting a little burnt out on all of the teaching that we're doing. So that's why I'm talking about restructuring and making some time in April off so that he gets some time completely off for a little bit. We have to take care of Thomas. And so we had planned to release Top Line in, I think it was February, but I'm moving it now and I don't know when. It will probably be released while we're running Flying Changes course, but it might not be until May, June. I don't know. I don't know yet. I can't say. I'm so sorry. But if Flying Changes is your focus, or you want to work on the elements, these elements that that lead up to the flying changes, even if flying changes is not your interest, but you want to work on your straightness, suppleness, and bend, then sign up for this course. And yeah, because the other courses will come later too. And then we repeat all the courses. So, they'll come up even if you don't do them the next time, you can do them later. But then you have something to work on now. And we might just focus on the flying changes. We're running our Cantor course right now too, and the other courses are ending. So we might just focus on these for a little bit.
Margaret Erling was saying, so true, we want our horses to arrive at flying changes happily and confidently, that they feel proud of it. And Candace
Super important.
C says, yes, make it fun and not controlling or forcing, like showing a child how to skip. So maybe the old pushing 30 lesson horse could do the flying changes. They never stop learning, really,
Just like us, right? We have many riders in our courses that are 50 and up, and they're just learning this stuff for the first time. We never stop learning as long as we have an attitude towards learning, and the horses never stop learning either.
Sarah Griffith says, I was practicing croup in and out in slow motion yesterday. Ellie is stiff left, but I noticed that when moving hips from left to right, which I thought was our better side, she wobbled over to the right with her shoulders. I think she was pushing through the left shoulder. Actually, if the horse is hollow right and stiff left, you would expect the shoulders to go to the left when you're moving the haunches to the right. If the shoulders go to the right too, that would be unusual. Because if the shoulders also drift to the right, the horse would be leaning on the right shoulder. And that would be more typical for the stiffer side. If you move the hips to the stiffer side, the shoulders usually want to come along too and go to the stiffer side. But if you move the haunches over to the hollow side, sometimes the shoulders drift a little to the stiffer side.
Maybe it was that she just drifted in,
Could be that the horse came off the wall.
Came off the wall. Yeah.
That could also be an aiding issue.
She said she's doing it in slow motion. Maybe break it down even more and do it even slower so that you can check each element of that. Asking the horse to move the croup.
It could happen if you don't rotate your pelvis enough. If you just shift your weight, then the shoulders would come off the wall too. But if you rotate enough, the haunches will come in and the shoulders will stay out. And then you can still add the weight shift, towards the inside. So a lot of people shift the weight almost too much in a lot of like turns and things or lateral movements, and they don't rotate enough.
Okay, we have 2 minutes before we have to end, so let's just can you guys grab your questions and ask them tonight in the Q&A, or just take them right now and post them in the Facebook group and tag Thomas on them? I'm so sorry we can't get to all of them, but we're limited on time. And we have to start the German training in 1 minute. Is there anything that was super... there was one nice comment. I'll go up right there. Wait. Hey, Candace C said, hey, this course, as I said, will put you far ahead, no matter if you're even close to doing a flying change. And that's exactly my point.
That's true.
That even if, I mean, we say on there that you should be ready to start training with flying changes, but many people that have joined the course that are not ready, that their horses improve so much through the course. By the end of the course, their horses usually are ready.
It improves the balance and the straightness and the suppleness, so that's why the horse becomes rounder and more rideable and more responsive overall. It's always fascinating to see. Yeah,
and the participants over and over and over say, I joined the course to learn the flying changes, but that was actually the smallest thing I got out of it. I got the flying changes, but that was the smallest thing. I got a stronger, straighter, more supple, better balanced, happier horse as a result. And they're happy too. So, and that for us makes us feel good. Just like when you get off after a ride and the horse is happy with the ride, you're like, that was good. We did good today. That feels really good. Far more important to me than when somebody watching says, that's really good. I'd rather the horse is happy with the ride. And same thing when our participants are really happy because they got so much more out of it than they expected. That makes me really happy. So, what about the straightness course? It will run this year, yes, but I don't have dates at all. It just ended not so long ago. Didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Or is it
just finished? Or
just
is about to finish?
It's just finishing, I think.
It's on its last leg.
I'm always kind of thinking a month or so in advance. So, it will run. I don't have dates. I haven't even started to think about that course. I'm working on, planning out a few other courses right now. But the flying changes is the one we're focusing on right now. So, I'd love to see you guys in the course.
That'll be fun. Okay. It's always a fun course.
Did you put the link in here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can do it again.
Okay. Just one more time, just in case. Grab the link. You can go read all about it. And if you have any questions about it, just ask in the Facebook group or tonight in the Q&A. And we'll see you then.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.